Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal. Correctable. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. Correctable is how Aaron Rodgers described the performance of the Jets last night. That's very good. I'm happy that he thinks that. The Jets got absolutely shown to the world, to Woody Johnson, to Rober Saleh, that, wow, the Niners are just a far better team in every way. Though Aaron Rodgers did play more than 4 plays, silver lining playbook, he ended up not getting hurt, but pulled at the end of the game. Taylor got a late touchdown, but the Niners still easily won a game, 32-19. And I was struck by 2 things that I wanted to mention about this Jets game. Number one, I was counting money during the game, not mine or Coca's or Sarah's or anybody's or yours. I was thinking about Reddick and thinking about he's the Jets players holding out. He was traded to the Jets, hasn't reported. He's losing money hand over fist. The guy gets paid $200,000 a quarter. So he lost about $800,000 for the game, not playing. Part of his over $5 million in fines. So I was breaking it down. So it's $200,000 per quarter. There's 15 minutes in a quarter. I'm just thinking as each minute passes, it's another. And then I was thinking, does he say to himself, what would I be doing with this? Let's just say it's $400,000 after taxes, assuming 50% tax rate in New York. So it's net to him of $100,000 per quarter. So he's going through, and each minute, half the quarter goes. He's like, oh, that's $50,000. Yeah, that's college tuition. That would be a car. Or is he just so resolute? This is the advantage that management always has because the show goes on. The Jets season will go on. They will be fine what they were. What is Reddick worth? McCaffrey doesn't play and the line moves by half a point. Reddick playing, I don't think it would impact the line at all. I mean, he's not a terrible edge rusher. They got him for purposes of improving their defense. But that all said, at some point you say to the player and to the player agent, this is no longer OTAs. This is no longer training camp. This is no longer a preseason game. Here's where the rubber is meeting the road. Are you sure that you're not going to play? Just let me know. Because here's the ramifications. No matter what happens, no matter what extension that you think you're entitled to that you're likely not going to get, no matter how it works, we're not giving you back this money. And often in the NFL, when these players are holding out, there's a kumbaya when it's done and the players come back and the team will refund the fines and they all live happily ever after. And it's sort of a joke of a negotiation because the hammer that you have is the fining to the player for the holdout. And if the player knows, hey, listen, there's no great consequence for this holdout, I'll get the money back. There's no urgency. But now it's the opposite to me. Who's got the leverage? What exactly is Reddick thinking about at the moment? The only thing I can possibly think is that his assumption is that it's principled. I always love negotiating with people who stand on principle because the odds are when you have to say that, it means that you're giving up something. You're giving up your position. You're giving up a clause. You're giving up an amount of money. You're doing something. That's the consideration for your ability to say, hey, listen, I believe in this so much that I will not act like a rational negotiator. Instead, I am going to, it's almost principle, you could argue, is cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's principle. I was looking at Andy Slater, who got the, we'll get to this later in the show. Andy Slater gave us the body cam, as well as many other people after him, of what happened with Tyreek Hill. We're going to talk about it again and talk about what happened. Andy Slater has a habit of posting his gambling tickets. And I was thinking about gambling and the back and forth that goes on with lines, et cetera, as we do our picks of the day. Was anyone else upset about McCaffrey being ruled out hours before the game? No, it seems ordinary. It seems fine. Questionable is what he was listed at. The line reflected that, obviously, with 4.5, except then McCaffrey was ruled out, so they moved the line to 3.5 right before the game started. Of course, it didn't matter, so McCaffrey's worth about a point in the line. Very fine. There's an injury list. We know the rules in the NFL are very serious about the injury list. You've got to disclose injuries in a timely fashion. You've got to categorize them as they are because of gambling. That's the only reason. The NFL will say it's for competitive reasons. It's to give teams a chance to prepare. We don't have to tell a team if our star player is going to sit on a Sunday. We just have to give the lineup a couple hours before the game. All's fine until Jordan Mason, who is the backup, who had an amazing game. He ran for 147 yards. The Niners offense didn't miss a beat. Their defense is superior. The Jets just got blown out, basically. But Jordan Mason said after the game, I wasn't nervous because I was told that I'll be playing / starting on Friday night. The game is Monday, told Friday. You don't tell anybody because you're sworn to secrecy because you want the Jets preparing for McCaffrey, because if they're preparing for McCaffrey, then they're not preparing for Mason, and you're going to use Mason differently. You're going to shoot him through basically the A-gap the entire game is what he did between the tackles, but no problem. Yeah, that's a big problem. You can't do that if you're the Niners. The NFL has to take a look at that. They have to, for the integrity of the gamblers. Not really the integrity of the game. I'm not a fan. If absent gambling, I'm all in for gamesmanship. I don't think you need to tell your opponent anything. If you don't feel well, if you're a little hurt, if you're going to play different players, some players, you have a different pitching plan, you're going to pitch your starter, but then pull them after one time through the lineup and go to a rested guy in the playoffs. Whatever you're going to do, I'm in. But with gambling, that sort of gamesmanship is purposefully not allowed. As a matter of fact, I think that this is not overblown, but Coca does. But we're going to do it anyway. Oh, Coca, wait to see. Can we talk about this? DavidSamsonPodcast.com. That is the website. We get all sorts of emails on all sorts of subjects. You could be watching this live on YouTube, or you could be on the DraftKings Network. If you're watching on the DraftKings Network, and if you are part of DraftKings, and you're watching, thank you. I appreciate that. But someone had a great idea. How about making a market for the wait to sees? Because wait to sees are something that we do. This was an idea from one of our audience members, Coca, and I love it because our wait to sees are done when I tell you that something's going to happen, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and maybe there should be a market where you could bet it. So the wait to see for today, as an example, is this is official, Coca. The NFL is going to fine the San Francisco 49ers for mischaracterizing the McCaffrey injury. Wait to see. I don't think they'll have a choice. Now, you could bet that that's going to happen. You could bet it's not going to happen. We could figure out how to make a market. One of the wait to sees that I did about a week ago, if you had bet that it was going to happen, you would lose. How's that for accountability? About a week ago on, that's not about a week, 4/8/69. Let's make that sound way cleaner. Exactly 1 week ago on September 3rd, we told you that DirecTV and Disney will settle their carriage dispute by the start of Monday Night Football. That wait to see was proven wrong. Because DirecTV and Disney did not come to an agreement. And if you did not do one of the things that DirecTV suggested, go to Sling, go to Fubo, get a free trial, good luck. If you didn't do what Stu Gatz did and cancel DirecTV and go to YouTube TV, then you did not get to watch the Jets-Niners game. All weekend long, I was positive my wait to see was going to work based on last year's huge charter negotiations where there was a settlement with Disney right before the first game, the first Monday night game. I thought it would follow the same pattern because I didn't believe that either Disney or DirecTV would have the intestinal fortitude to keep this going, despite the protestations to the contrary, despite all the statements back and forth, the anger, the vitriol. The fact is they negotiated during the weekend. They negotiated Monday. And there were reports they're still far apart. There's issues unresolved. That's always a Bubameister for you thinking that negotiations aren't going well. Because as you know, in any negotiation, there's always unresolved issues right until the very end. The last unresolved issue is the agreement. So, of course, there's unresolved issues. The reason I'm surprised that it didn't settle is that I'm trying to look at it from both sides. And I absolutely understand Disney's side. They will not in any way give any indication to any other distributor that they are in any way willing to take less money or give less favorable terms to DirecTV than they gave to their other distributors. I totally get that. I totally get that DirecTV looks at its business and says, hey, we're down to 9 or 10 or $11 million. Hi, I'm David Samson. All right, we're clear. Here we go. I totally understand that DirecTV looks at this and says we're down to 9 to 11 million subscribers. We are losing revenue hand over fist. We simply can't afford the things we used to be able to afford. We'd love to have the benefit of everything we had for our consumers, for our subscribers. Unfortunately, we can't pay the amount to you that you want. We need to figure out a different way to do business. Our business is dying. So it makes perfect sense that DirecTV would say, we're going to choose this hill now. Except when you are a company like DirecTV and you decide that you're going to choose a fight and that this is going to be the one, what you're really signaling to the market is the level of desperation is real. The odds of the company continuing its slide downward are high. When you choose to say no more, I've got to fight, that often happens as a last line of defense. When you've given up so much land, when you've given up so many points in a negotiation, when you say, all right, this is it. I always loved when an opponent in a negotiation would do that, when they would tell me, hey, this is the net bottom line. I will not move from this position. That frames everything for me because then I can get stuff on the margins. The PR of this situation has gotten a lot of attention with dueling statements from DirecTV, from the leaders at Disney, including Jimmy Pitaro, the head of the president of ESPN. As the kickoff was happening last night, and I'm thinking, will Aaron Rodgers play 4 plays? How's that going to work? That I've got to wait to see that Rodgers will play under 13 games. Will he stay healthy even for 1 game? I was refreshing X, and I could not find anything official from the parties, as though they didn't want to acknowledge to anyone that Monday night was a deadline of any kind. And the reason I viewed Monday night, 8 p.m. as an actual deadline is actual deadlines are what you do in a tense negotiation where there is a true lack of meeting of the minds. An actual deadline can spur action. As a matter of fact, it's the best way to spur action. And once 8 o'clock came and went, I guess you could argue 8:19, whatever you want to argue, what's the next moment? And I was thinking about the NFL season. I was thinking about Disney. I was thinking about DirecTV, and I can't find one. While there are examples of a deal settling after 2 weeks of Monday night games, there's no real incremental difference between week 4 and week 1. The people generally, before a Jets-Niners game of week 1, the people are going to have spoken. If they're going to cut the cord, if they're going to get away from the dish, if they're going to side with DirecTV and go over to a friend's house to watch the game, if they're just going to skip the game, if they were never going to watch the game, the positions are generally entrenched by the week 1, by that deadline. I guess both sides have some sort of thought that this argument is different, principled. I guess we'll wait to see. I spent quite a few hours last night. I was at a dinner with my daughter, actually, and Coca sent me a text, and he knew I was at dinner. So when Coca sends me a text and his name comes up on the phone, I know that he is sending me something that I need to look at because I know otherwise he wouldn't interrupt me. And he sent me body cam footage of the Tyreek Hill incident from the other day, from Sunday in Miami. Yesterday's show, we went through what happened with Tyreek Hill, the fact that he got arrested, the fact that, by the way, we said one of the police officers was on administrative leave. That was incorrect. He's on administrative duty. That is different than administrative leave. I mischaracterized that. Correction. Thank you to those who pointed that out. Police officers wear body cams now with audio. There's a way to capture. It's no longer he said, she said. There are amateur sleuths everywhere with their phone cameras. But at the end of the day, the body cams of the police, which need to be turned on, are dispositive about a situation. Prior to the body cam being released, there were dueling statements. Tyreek Hill met the media, talked about the experience. The police union backed up its police officers. Miami-Dade said administrative duties while we investigate. We're going to investigate. When I looked at the 4 minutes of police footage, I looked at the breakdown, I looked at a bunch of different videos. I was despondent. And I want to explain because I've really thought about what bothered me the most. We have video. I tell you that if you haven't seen it, it's not pleasant. It's disturbing. But Coca, before we go through what was exactly in my head, let's show a few seconds of the video.
Your window down, I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car.
Give me that.
Get out of the car.
Give me that. We'll break that freaking window.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. What part of that don't you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand?
I'm getting out.
You understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you. You're confused.
I'm getting out, bro.
Too late.
Chill,
Too
bro.
late.
All right, bro. Take me to jail, bro. Do what you gotta do, bro.
We are. We will.
Good, bro.
It is good.
Hey, Drew. Hey,
don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. You stop crying,
bro. Y'all.
That was video of Tyreek Hill being pulled out of the car by the police. let's be clear before we start, please. When the police pull you over, it is your job, it is required by law for you to follow the instructions of the police. If they say roll your window down, you roll your window down. If they ask for license and registration, if they ask if there are weapons in the car, whatever it is they ask, you follow. It doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter what car you're driving. None of that matters. What everybody is taught is that you follow instructions of the police. What the police are taught, and I have since last night spoken to someone in police, a friend of mine, there is a threshold. The object is to always de-escalate a situation. That is the goal. But the primary goal above even that is safety of both the officer and of whoever is being pulled over, whoever is being arrested. The unfortunate part is that the police are forced, as part of their training, as part of the rules, you have to assume the worst in order to guarantee your own safety. Even with that as a backdrop, what the policeman did in this instance right outside Dolphin Stadium, whether they knew it was Tyreek Hill or not, there was a point in there when it was pointed out that it was Tyreek Hill. Whether you thought that he wasn't answering or complying by rolling down the window when you asked him to. When you open the car door to get the person out of the car, my question is a simple one. Even assuming that because Tyreek Hill did not lower the window enough or did not lower the window when asked, even assuming that it was the right thing to do to get Tyreek Hill out of the car, I can't get anyone to tell me that that's the way to do it, where you then have to put him face down on the ground. The training that I am told is that handcuffs are used for the safety of the person and of the police. But the overarching problem with what happened and with what the body cam shows was manifested through the comments that you all had about that body cam footage. Many of you, and you know where you are politically, had one view, which was he should have listened to the police. He got what he deserved. The majority of you, and you know where you stand politically, damn the police. Fire those officers immediately. Forget investigation, forget speaking, forget conversation. Fire them. All of the opinions that people are giving today about the body cam footage and that you will hear throughout the course of the day will all come from the point of view of the person giving them and their personal experience with police or their political views toward police, toward systemic race issues and racism. I want to have you think about it slightly differently. The Miami Dolphins released a long statement. And you know on this show that I can be critical of Stephen Ross. I can be critical of statements. I could point out the irony of Stephen Ross being a complete Trump supporter and the statement that he gave. However, I'm also someone who will tell you when a statement is good and smart and thought out and meaningful. And that's what the Dolphins statement was. It's a long statement, but I would like to point out one part of it, which says we are proud to have a strong and positive relationship with the Miami-Dade Police Department and recognize the vast majority of officers do serve the community with the utmost character and desire to protect all citizens. However, As is on full display in the videos released tonight, there are some officers who mistake their responsibility and commitment to serve with misguided power. While we commend Miami-Dade Police Department, we also urge them to take equally swift and strong action against the officers who engaged in such despicable behavior. That measured part of that statement, I think, is where we all need to land. And you know, I try not to force you, as I respect the audience so much, on how to think about an issue. But when you look at that body cam footage, it is going to cause a visceral reaction one way or the other that is going to serve as almost confirmation to you about the beliefs you have about one side or the other. What about the recognition that in any job, in any relationship, in any family, in any situation, there are rules and there are exceptions. There are people whose opinions do not reflect yours. There's people whose actions don't represent yours. Since the end of time, we've had the expression, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I don't exactly know what that means. I only know what I have used it to mean in the past, which is just because you've got one rotten apple, you don't need to throw away the entire bunch. People have asked you to consider that before when it comes to police brutality, and it's hard. It's hard to see the videos we see. It's sickening to see the videos we see. It's sad. It's borderline pathetic, scary. But it also should not open the door to people to give a point of view of, look, we told you, this is how it always is. And it doesn't give you an opportunity to say, look, this is what you force us to do by your actions. Those extremes are representative of the extremes that we may see on display at 9 o'clock tonight during the second presidential debate, first one with Harris v. Trump, where people are so set in their belief that they're unwilling to look at an individual circumstance, make an individual judgment, and then wipe the slate clean and go back to viewing macro how situations generally play out. I ask that as you think about your reaction to today, and it's going to be swift, it's going to be strong, it's going to be on every show you watch and listen to throughout the day. Think about the messages that are being given to you, the people who are delivering the messages, and think to yourself, what's the agenda? My agenda is on my sleeve. I am despondent about that body cam video. I'm angry about that body cam video. I am not, however, willing to say that anything general results from that. But certainly, as the Dolphins said in their statement, it is my hope that something specific results from it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to review, we have a top 5 list. And then we're going to talk about something that's going on in Chicago with the White Sox. You're going to want to stick around. There is a quote that came out yesterday from the GM of the White Sox, and it is an absolute candidate for Hall of Fame quote of the year. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson coming at you on a Tuesday, live 8 a.m. on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. That's literally what it's called. Check it out. Press subscribe. If you're listening to this, thank you. Add people to your party. It's fun. I got notified. I don't know where I was. Boy, I'd like to know where I was. It was a text alert that James Earl Jones died yesterday. 93 years old. I tweeted something, Coca, and I don't often repeat my tweets. If you follow me at David P. Samson, you saw it, but it's been in my head. I am a here's a little thing to know about me. I am, like many of you, incredibly scared of death, the permanence of it. I think about it all the time. It is debilitating. I don't want to die. I want to live forever. I have total Peter Pan syndrome. I don't want to get old. The inevitability of it is absolutely devastating to me because as such a control freak, it staggers me that I can't control it. And then it staggers me like how permanent it is. And I don't want to get too morbid, but man, I'm way too impatient to do the same thing for eternity. Although maybe there's, marathons that I can do. I knew that the actors that I loved in my childhood are going to die as much as I know family members and, those I love, those I know, those I don't know. It is what it is. When James Earl Jones passed away yesterday at 93, I had this wave of crazy sadness come over me. It's almost like a replacement sadness in that I'm not his family. I didn't know him, though he was a part of my baseball life for sure. And I knew that he was older. And it's like, Dustin Hoffman is going to die one day. Anyway, I just want to tell you I was thinking about that. Although now I could argue that dying in the 2020s, is it better than dying in the 1910s? Because you've got video and audio that enables someone to live forever. I guess who's not Googleable, assuming they don't run out of cloud space, will all be Googleable forever. But we won't even know that we've lived on. But I guess legacy lives on. In Judaism, legacy lives on by talking and sharing stories, much like other religions, I'm sure. Without home videos or without, Google, you've got photos, maybe old photos. My grandfather passed away in 1978, and he lives on to this day with stories that I tell my kids about my grandfather, their great-grandfather. James Earl Jones will live on. I wanted to thank him, just in case he's listening to one more episode of Nothing Personal. I want to say to you, James, I appreciate you. And if we didn't tell you enough as part of the baseball ownership meetings, your voice was in more ownership meetings than mine was. You were the voice that was through the loudspeakers and through the screens at meetings as you narrated things, as we would show clips from Field of Dreams. It was a way to pump people up for the start of a season. It's what owners counted on when their team stunk, the rebirth that you described in Field of Dreams. And to honor you, James, I wanted to give people my top 5 James Earl Jones movies. Number 5, it's a baseball movie, of course. Who can forget The Neighbor on the Sandlot? How many of you have neighbors you were scared of or that you loved? How many? Many of you? When the ball goes into the neighbor's lot, hey, sorry, do you have a dog? Hey, little help, please? Number 4, you knew it would have to be a voice situation. Mufasa in The Lion King. Who didn't teach their kids about what it means to be the pride of the herd, the jungle, the king of the jungle? Number 3, Coming to America. Was he the father you always wanted? Was he the father you never wanted? Were you thinking to yourself, would I be that way? Would I like to be that way? Number 2, Sneakers. Many of you may not have seen that movie, but it's one of my all-time faves. Sidney Poitier, Robert Redford. I think I reviewed it on Nothing Personal. If you haven't seen it, please go watch Sneakers. James Earl Jones is perfect in his role. And the number 1, I don't think we need to say what it is. Coca can put it up there. If you're watching this, it's Terrence Mann in Field of Dreams. His suspenders, his burgeoning belly, his voice, his level of calmness when he appears when Kevin Costner turns the van around, leaving Boston. The eeriness of his narration. The script that is actually in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. It has become There's got to be a list somewhere of iconic lines. I assume, Coke, are there not? If you build it, he will come. We built it. I always wanted to ask James. We built it. No one came. What's up with that? Field of Dreams. How you doing right now in Chicago? You happy? You feeling good? Happy about the Cubs playing better? Craig Counsell got his team over 500, maybe competing for the wild card. One of the great comebacks after a disappointing season. Can't catch the Brewers, of course, but it's possible he could catch the Mets, who are now leading the wild card. I'm talking about the guys on the South Side. Chris Getz. He's come up on the show before. I want to remind you, he's the GM of the Chicago White Sox. I want to remind you when he was hired. Jerry Reinsdorf, back in August of 2023, said, I started thinking about the speed I owe the fans. I realized that if you bring in somebody from the outside, it's going to take him a year. He's going to have to evaluate everybody in the organization. You'll lose a year. This was Reinsdorf explaining why he hired Chris Getz, who was a candidate and was already an employee of the White Sox. Well, here we are a year later. Maybe this is the year that you lose if you had hired someone from the outside, or was just this expected. The White Sox, as you know, they lost last night to the Guardians. They've lost 169 games. They are well on their way to breaking the record. There's a chance that they could get to 200 losses this year, which has never been done in the history of baseball. Forever, they will be known, when that happens, as the worst team ever assembled. I lost 100 games once in 18 seasons in 2013. It was dreadful. It was as though we could never win. We ended up winning 62. The irony is, when you lose 100 games, you win 62, you lose 100. That means for 2 months of the season, you go to bed happy. And for the other 4 months, you go to bed despondent. Chris Getz met the media yesterday, and what he said, it's almost impossible to believe. They're on course to lose 125 games, and he said, if you would have told me we would end up flirting with the record, I would have been a little surprised. Now, if you would have told me prior to the year we would have ended up with over 100 losses, maybe 105, 110, I would not have been as surprised. This is the cards we've been dealt at this point. You try and make the best of it. Chris, let me help you. Going into 2013, when we knew that we had just traded away a roster from 2012 that had not really well performed, but we had brought the payroll down. We had traded a bunch of guys to Toronto. We had a new manager in Mike Redmond. We had a feeling that we were not going to be good. We saw the projections, but we didn't follow those. We did our own projections. We did our own evaluations. Our message to the fans, our message to the players, our message to our employees, let's not believe the hype. Let's not believe the hate. Let's go into this season and know that we're going to win 60, we're going to lose 60, and let's really focus on those other 42 games. Now, I wouldn't expect us to go 2-38 in those other 42 or 2-40. But that said, let's focus on that. What Chris Getz is telling you with this quote is that he assumed his team was bad. Did he tell Reinsdorf that? I don't know. Did he tell the fan base that? I likely know. But there's one problem with the quote that makes it Hall of Fame worthy. 105, 110 losses and 125 losses, there's no difference. When you say that you would not be surprised to lose 110, but I'm surprised that we're losing 120, There is no GM that good. There is no prognosticator that good where they can say about a team, hey, listen, we're about a 110-win team. I don't think we're going to be able to flirt with the record of 116 but wins. But we're about, if you had told me we're a 116-win team, I wouldn't have thought so. But 110, I thought so. It's total horse hockey. There is zero incremental difference other than the history books. I just can't figure out what the plan is in Chicago. Are you starting over? Are you not? Do you have the guts to? When you meet your team, when you meet your media, and you are captaining of a season like this, you've got to be tight with your quotes. You've got to be rehearsed and ready to go. And here's the only acceptable thing to say to the media and to your fan base. This is an outrage. We have an owner who is angry, and rightfully so. We've got players in that clubhouse who are the wrong group of players. We've got executives who are the wrong group of executives. There is no one blameless when a season happens like this. The only thing I can guarantee you is that we will work hard to ensure that none of us ever feel this way again. That's it. That's all you say. The NFL has a problem with Deshaun Watson. Did you see it? May have gotten lost in the Tyreek Hill body cam situation. But I don't know if you were made aware of what happened yesterday. Deshaun Watson is in more trouble. There's a new civil lawsuit that's being filed in Houston. It was filed yesterday on Monday. It basically accuses Deshaun Watson of sexual assault. The story that this Jane Doe gives is basically a rape. The Cleveland Browns, coming off the loss to Dallas, already have been thinking about what a mistake it is to sign Deshaun Watson. If they're not thinking that, then they are even worse at their job than I expected, than I thought. I would have my lawyers right now, if I'm Jimmy Haslam, hey, what do we do here? How do we not pay Deshaun Watson? How do I get saved by you from my stupidity? It's what we use lawyers for in business. Hey, I want to help you help me because I'm a moron. That's often why you go to your lawyers when you've done something that you can't believe you've done from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, and you say, fix this, make it better. How do we get out of this Deshaun Watson contract? To which the lawyer responds, listen, here's the problem. You guaranteed him $230 million. Guaranteed him, whether he stinks or not. But what about a clause where we can terminate him for cause? What about the old moral turpitude clause? Yeah, those are contained in all contracts that are signed. You cannot act not in the best interests of your company. You cannot act with moral turpitude. If you don't know what that is, just you do. We all do from time to time. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. Do you know what's really hard to prove in a court of law? Is to argue to either a jury or to a judge, excuse me, Your Honor, this guy right here, this guy, you have no idea the level of moral turpitude. It's excessive. Can you please make a ruling that helps me make up for the mistake I made? Judges, of course, are not in the business of making things right for business people or anybody who believes they're entitled for a mulligan. It is extremely, I was going to say incredibly and extremely, and I think I said increamly. So I think that we should not have that in the show or on a network. 12/28/42. It is incredibly rare for a court to rule that there has been a termination for cause based on a moral turpitude clause. You have a better chance, if you're Cleveland, of arguing that he is unable to perform if he's suspended for this, And by the way, the NFL, who already suspended Deshaun Watson, the inquiry that we will all have is, will he be suspended again? The NFL has to let us know whether his initial suspension included the existence of this newly filed lawsuit. This lawsuit is totally different than all the massage issues that he had, the 24 lawsuits of him assaulting, harassing, and generally taking advantage of all these women. This next one is quite different. We don't know what the NFL knew, and we won't know until they talk about it. What I don't like is that the NFL, the Browns, no one had a comment. It's like no one was ready to deal with this issue. Guess what? When something like this comes out and a lawsuit is filed against Deshaun Watson, who is the poster boy for off-the-field problems and ineffectiveness on the field, you got to be ready. You got to do better than, hey, we got no comment. Here's the comment. We are investigating this incident because this is news to us. Or we had been aware of this incident. We have already punished Deshaun Watson for this and other incidences, and we will have no further comment in the interests of all involved. You just can't do no comment. Nothing personal pick of the day. The Orioles did not beat the Red Sox. The Orioles, who are now a game and a half behind the Yankees, they cost us a nothing personal pick of the day loss. However, we made it up with the Niners game. Didn't matter. McCaffrey wasn't playing, whether the line was 4.5, 4, 3.5. They comfortably won by 13. Wasn't even that close. So we are 119 and 124 after a 1-1 night. Tonight, we are going with Seth Lugo as an underdog, plus 120, with the I'm not going to win, but will come in second MVP player, Bobby Witt Jr. The Royals are taking on Marcus Stroman. I've hit my 140 innings pitch, but I know I won't get it next year, but I'm going to keep going even though I stink, and the Yankees have no other choice. Yankees. We're taking the Royals over the Yankees as our nothing personal pick of the day. Yankee fans got what they wanted yesterday. I wanted to end the show with a smile for all of you, if you don't mind. The Yankees called up Jason Dominguez yesterday. They're going to have him play every day. Played in center field yesterday. He's their number one prospect, top prospect. They finally called him up from Scranton. He's only 21 years old. He's had a cup of coffee earlier in the year and last year, whatever the case may be. But here's what's really awesome about this call-up. Not that Alex Verdugo played last night and hit a home run and he stinks, and that's one of the reasons why Dominguez is going to play every day. Not that. Or that Grisham's hitting below 200. Not that. The Yankees had come out firm, and I mean like mattress Mac type of firm, and said, our best way to win is with Alex Verdugo playing. And Aaron Boone said, we're not going to call him up if he's not going to play every day. That's why we didn't call him out in September. We're very comfortable playing Verdugo every day. It is so hard for a GM to admit that the media and the fans were right. It's just so hard. You don't want to do it, even when you know that it's the right decision. What it did is it took DJ LeMahieu getting hurt and being put on the IL for this transaction and this player move to happen. Because now what can happen is that Cashman can say, hey, we had an injury. Now, of course, DJ LeMahieu was put on the injured list with the ever-famous hip inflammation. News alert. 26 guys have inflammation on their bodies this time of year. It's the end of a grind of a season. They've been playing since February. Inflammation. Unprovable. Oh, I got some hip inflammation. I'm also hitting below 200. However, Cashman gets to say, listen, we had an injury. You know, I stand by what I said, that our best bet was playing Alex, and there was no reason to bring up Jason. We didn't have a spot for him. But with LeMahieu hurt, I mean, now Well, did LeMahieu play the outfield? Doesn't matter. Don't bother me with the facts. The problem and the reality is we have an injured player and we had to replace him. That's why we decided to bring up Dominguez. It made me laugh because I used to do the same thing. You had to wait for something to happen or you had to make it happen in order to give yourself an excuse because the Yankees and other executives are not in the business of having you think you're right ever. Jason Dominguez, welcome to the Yankees. It's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.